We've always valued hard work over entitlement. We've always said yes where others said no. I am keenly aware, having traveled and lived and worked all over the world for decades, done business, done charity, done policy work, that my story is only possible in this great nation.
When one is fighting for a cause and believes in it with every fiber of their being, often one has to face boorish bluster, bellicose pompousness, and those in a position of making decisions slapping you down for their personal benefit. Welcome to the world of American presidential politics, where the only woman in the Republican POTUS field will have to fight even harder to remain relevant in the race now that she has been taken off the main debate stage Thursday night. Let us not speculate on her response. Let's get it firsthand. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the hardline after a long absence, with her pounding away at the campaign trail, Republican presidential candidate Carly Fiorina. Ms. Fiorina, it is always a pleasure to get a chance to talk with you. And I guess we have to begin this by saying, now that you have been taken off the main stage, how angry are you? Honestly, you've got to be angry and disappointed.
Well, look, I think it's a reflection of why I'm running for president. We have a professional political class, an establishment, a media that thinks it's their job to pick our politicians. But last time I looked, it was the business of the voters of Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina, and Nevada, and this nation. So I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing.
Is it just perhaps, in your opinion, that people at the Republican National Committee, that there's somebody there who just doesn't want you there, and they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that you don't get a chance to send your message?
Well, look, you know, it's interesting. In the latest Fox News poll, I'm number 6 nationally. I started out as 17 out of 16. The margin of errors in these polls are greater than the distance between me and the people on the main stage. So you ask yourself, why am I not on the main stage? Frankly, I think the most important thing is for me to continue to talk to the American people. I am someone who will challenge the status quo. Maybe that's what the establishment's afraid of, but it's what the voters are looking for.
Well, let me stop right there when you say the establishment is afraid of that, because that's a good point. Do you honestly believe that, and are they afraid of what Carly Fiorina can bring to the table?
Oh, I think there are a lot of people in the establishment who do not want the status quo challenged. I think there are people running for president who claim they are outside of the status quo, but are in fact right in the middle of it.
Who are those people you speak of? Who are those people?
I think we have a professional political class, people who have spent all their lives in politics. Most of them are running for office, and they've become part of the problem. 80% of the people in this country believe that professional political class cares more about its own power, position, and privilege, running and winning, than on getting anything done. And I agree with them, because guess what? We've had the same problem for a long time. It's not just about replacing a D with an R. Our debt and deficits have been rising for 50 years. Our government's been getting bigger for 50 years. Our government's been taking more power out of the hands of people for 50 years, under Republicans and Democrats alike. We need someone who will actually challenge the status quo. I will, and I have a plan to take our country back.
What about
those? This is why the voters of New Hampshire and Iowa and South Carolina and Nevada and elsewhere are listening.
What about those who will look at the polls, and you mentioned them a couple of minutes ago, and they will say that at one point you had risen to the main stage. Your numbers were up, but your numbers have plateaued. Other critics will say that they are going down, and you have lost the appeal of the American voters and those people who are looking for the change. How do you get that back?
Well, actually, it's not true. It's simply not true. So I didn't start out on the main debate stage, and I am now number 6 nationally, according to Fox News. That's the highest I've been all along. These polls are interesting. I've gained ground in New Hampshire, in Iowa. So voters decide elections. If we paid attention to the polls at this time in the presidential race, we never would have had a Ronald Reagan. We would have already had a Hillary Clinton presidency. We would have had a Rudy Giuliani presidency. We would have had a Howard Dean presidency. But we didn't have any of those things, and we did have a Ronald Reagan, because voters decided. As last time I looked, voters decide elections. Polls don't, pundits don't, the media doesn't, the establishment doesn't.
Is there an anti-woman side, though, on the Republican side? Is it simply because, and I hate to ask this question because I think we've gone past this here in the 21st century, but are there people there who simply do not want a woman running the country for the Republicans?
Look, all my life, I have been told to sit down and be quiet, to settle. Don't challenge the status quo. Just accept the way things are. I have rejected that advice all of my life. It's how you go from secretary to CEO. I'm running for president because the American people are being told the same thing. The American people are being told, sit down and be quiet, just settle for the way things are, the political establishment, a federal government that doesn't work for you anymore. And I don't think the American people should settle, because what we're doing right now isn't working, and people know that in their gut. So I have never faltered. I have never shied away from a fight. I have been underestimated my entire life, and I've been told to sit down and be quiet over and over and over, and I'm still here, and I'm going to keep going.
You have alluded earlier to some of the others in the Republican field that are your opponents. In Glamour magazine, the article published today, you said, and I quote, "Donald Trump is not a leader, and I do not think Donald Trump will be our nominee. If he were, Hillary Clinton would wipe the floor with him." Is that a correct quote?
That's true.
Why? Why do you think Hillary Clinton? Because Donald Trump is leading the polls. Many people believe
right.
he is the man to lead this nation.
Which tells us all about the polls. But look, we cannot defeat Hillary Clinton with someone who routinely insults women. We cannot defeat Hillary Clinton with someone who divides our party. We cannot defeat Hillary Clinton with someone who divides our nation. Donald Trump is a great self-promoter. But Donald Trump may talk about us. He is actually all about himself. And that's the story of his life. You can't lead a nation if you're all about yourself. We can't put another narcissist in the White House, and we cannot put another divider-in-chief in the White House either.
So do you agree with the assessment from John Sununu, former chief of staff to the elder President Bush? He says that Donald Trump is a phony. He is not a real candidate, that he changes. He flips on a lot of issues here. Do you find that assessment true and agreeing with Governor Sununu?
Well, look, a lot of politicians say whatever they need to say to get elected. We got a lot of people running for president who are willing to say whatever they got to say to get elected. One thing in Manhattan, another thing in Iowa. Donald Trump may never have been a politician before, but he sure acts like one. He says whatever he thinks he needs to say to get elected, but his entire life has been about Donald Trump. It's not been about leading others or helping others. It's been about helping himself.
So do you think that he will say anything as long as he gets elected? Of course, there are others as well who will do the same thing, but you're singling out Donald Trump here.
No, I'm not necessarily singling out Donald Trump alone, other than he's the guy who says he's not a politician. We've got a lot of people running for office who will say whatever they need to say to get elected, and then they're going to go do as they please. That's the thing the American people are tired of. Look, Republicans have been talking about the same thing forever. Republicans have been talking about securing the border, reforming the tax code, reducing debts and deficits. They've been talking about it, but somehow none of those things have happened. And it's because the professional political class says and does what it needs to say to get elected, and then goes on and does as they please. Quite 80% of Americans are tired of it.
Let me do this. I have about 60 seconds left. The president will deliver his final State of the Union address this evening. In Carly Fiorina's opinion, what is the state of the union right now?
We are a divided nation. We are a nation that has lost the sense of limitless possibility that always defines us. We are a nation where the vast majority of citizens have figured out the government no longer works for us, and the political system doesn't work for us either. We are at a point where we must elect a leader who will stand with the citizens of this great nation and take our country back. It is why I'm running for president, and it is why, despite what the media says, it is why everywhere I go, people stand in line and listen, and they join me.
And you have filed for the Kansas GOP presidential caucus, and you are moving forward. You have no thought whatsoever about giving up.
No, in fact, I'm on the ballot in 30 states already, and I intend to be on the ballot in 50 states. I will not falter. I will continue to fight, and I know what I'm fighting for. The American people know what I'm fighting for as well.
There it is.
It's time to take our country back. There
is that fight that people always want to hear in their candidate. Carly Fiorina, it's always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you. Please join us again. Good luck. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks so much.
Let's remind everybody, the State of the Union is indeed tonight. Our special coverage right here on Newsmax begins at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time, with the Republican response and a full panel here, where we will discuss what the president says on his way out and what exactly that State of the Union really is. Stay with us. The fastest 60 minutes of news, The Hard Line, continues.